Harriet the Spy. The younger Clatterhooves has long been suspected to be a member of the Umbral organization, and that strange figure that killed Miss Gloring and vanished in a blast of smoke. The organization is eating itself alive ever since those humans fought back. Lavender mutters to herself as she ties some purple yarn around one peg and up to another. But what branch does this shadow figure belong to? If he even belongs to the Umbral? We saw him move against one branch of the Umbral and vanish two people tied to another. Harriet, in her Terita persona, notes as she brings up a single picture of Herbert stuck in mid-air as the Nagasa Miss Gloring tries to hold him back. Thankfully, they didn't have any pictures of him, only partially disguised. He'd moved fast to dress up again afterwards, and that was making her life a lot easier in return. I can't believe that someone's using a man as an assassin. I mean, it's a man. They're supposed to bring life into the galaxy, not take it away, Genshina mutters as she looks over her own copy of the picture. He could be any number of bipedal races, especially if he's using axiom pockets to hide other body parts. The only hint we have is that he has that human weapon, but that could easily be a frame job. They're not hard to make. They're very easy to use and very powerful, especially at closer ranges. Lavender mopes as she brings up a shrunken blueprint of a handgun. Once again, Harriet is in awe at just how close and how far she can miss the mark at the same time. It's actually fairly impressive how she just dismissed her best piece of evidence as a frame job. Maybe we need to think in different angles. It's like docking with a transport hub. You have to match its velocity just so, or you're just making a mess. Harriet offers a bit of folksy space trucker wisdom and visibly considers. What about the location, the business, or heck, even the building or the entire spire? Is there anything funny about them? That's a very good question. You can look into that while I start digging into possible sources for this gun. There has to be some hint in its construction. The chemical compounds used in the chemical propellant should do it. They should be fairly exotic. Lavender remarks, going right down the wrong trail again. Harriet makes a point of not telling her about rifling and patterns in the bullets. Still, with everyone properly distracted as Genshina begins trying to figure out what BMO races have sensitive eyes to need a visor alongside martial traditions, Harriet can listen in and burn time as she researches the history of the arcade, the building it's in, and the spire it's on. She prints out a few sheets of food poisoning incidents, one of which fatal. She then follows it up with the story of how the previous owner of the building had fallen into bad debts due to gambling addictions and had been forced to sell to a bunch of teens that had pooled their cash together. The spire, of course, has a population just shy of 1 billion. So there are enough missing person reports, ongoing murder cases, cold cases of all kinds, reported gangs, and terrible rumors to print out a stack of paper a foot high as she prints only every 10th story. She then goes into sorting it all, things she thinks are tied to the conspiracy, things she's not sure about, and things she's sure aren't involved. So she starts putting together a bit of a story, perhaps a tale of revenge and hatred stemming from the gambling addict to several disappearances, and maybe into the food poisoning as well. Maybe? No. I think I'm edging into the wrong lanes here. Harriet mutters, and she puts all the research aside and begins digging into the history of the spire again. Hey, this is neat, but it's not what we're looking for. One of the Charbie notes as she looks over the little scandal that Harriet pulled out of random articles. That's why I'm looking again. I thought it might lead to gang activity. Maybe the Umbral organization has some kind of stake in that gaming center, but I don't think so. Still need to look into it though. Just because I don't suspect something doesn't mean there isn't something there, Harriet says as she starts going over a list of all the different games in the arcade to try and find a pattern. You're really getting it, Lavender congratulates her, and Harriet smiles. The poor stupid little horse. She pities her. She burns through another hour just collecting and printing information on each of the machines. There are about 100. It's a small arcade after all, and her alarm goes off. Oh no, I'm sorry I have to go. I stayed as long as I could, but if I don't go then, go then. Half the power of these gatherings is secrecy, Lavender prompts her, and Harriet puts everything down, doesn't bother logging out of her research and bolts out. She doesn't stop her more advanced pace until she's in her apartment. Then she starts running Axiom through her hair to shift its color to the deep brown. I'll have to get into contact with Lulu again. Little Miss Argonne's in about a mile over her head, but I don't think the perceivers have it in them to kill in cold blood. A coffee and a bagel loaded with cream cheese later, and she feels almost human. She has about an hour before she has to leave, and she needs to take a load off. No one ever told her just how exhausting spy work would be. Of course, it's obvious now in retrospect, but making sure you act a certain way and never slip up is hard work. It's not Hollywood. If she makes a big enough mistake, then she's going to get shot, not screamed at by a director. So she clears her mind and spends a few minutes meditating to clear her head and relax herself. She banishes her discomfort and doubts into nothingness as she reminds herself what this is all for. The galaxy is writhing under chaos and self-serving stupidity. She will bring order and wisdom to counter it, but first, she needs to see the wholeness of the situation. She quickly showers after the meditation and then purges her scents. A splash of perfume, and she dresses herself. She prefers the sisterhood over the perceivers. She likes dressing up, and with how well-dressed everyone is, it feels much more like a childhood tea party with a touch of paperwork than actual spy work. A breezy dress in dark and light greens, a sun hat and small choker for style. A few jangly bracelets in silver and sandals. She adds a few dabs of makeup to her natural complexion and hides both a laser pistol and a plasma pistol on a garter each. There, beautiful and deadly. A perfect little ego boost. She's recognized on sight and scent in the club and is passed a key card. Heffy, oh, it's been too long, she gushes, running forward to hug her besties. Estella, I missed you. Heffy gushes right back as she returns the hug and kisses Harriet on the cheeks. You've done such wonderful work. We really need to find more time to be together outside of our work. Have you ever undergone the wine walk? I'm afraid not, though if you're mentioning it, then it already has a wonderful recommendation, Harriet says happily. Oh, it is, but I was also thinking of letting you have my sampler. There's quite a bit to go through, what with that new state being kicked up. We need to get some dirt on those men. Heffy remarks and Harriet nods. Oh, thank you so much. And you're quite right. The sooner we know something about these. They call themselves the Undaunted now, don't they? She asks, and Heffy nods. Well, the sooner we get some proper dirt on them, the sooner we can have fun. After all, if they're being honest and it's a race with a lot of men, well, he might not be a proper threat, but they look close enough for me. Oh, you are a scandal, Estella. I agree. Between the two of us, we should be able to lock down a wonderful man. Perhaps even that admiral of theirs. Something about the flecking of gray in his hair that makes him look, oh, so refined. Heffy gushes and Harriet nearly breaks character. Maybe, but I believe I saw him dancing with the ambassador of Brule. I think it was Brule. It was a go-bee woman dressing like a tribal savage had been stuffed into a suit. Harriet considers as Heffy thinks. I think it was. He also brought in a whole band of utterly scrumptious-looking men with amazing music. That big one in the middle, I think I spotted him with a pair of metak. What a piece of meat that one was. So big and strong-looking. And that voice. Oh my, that voice. Heffy lets her tongue flick past her lips in absent thought as the imaginations of what she wants Koa to do to her run wild. There's more than that. I just got a wonderful video clip from a world called Vuxa 5, one of the Cobes announces. A distant cousin of mine's been sharing it among the family. It shows what looks like a threat taking out two serial killers one after another in a full-on axiom war. It's insane. Really? Well, put it on then. It may be one of these humans, HFY exclaims, and quickly enough the file is uploaded into a nearby view screen. It starts with an absolutely psychotic Lopin introducing herself and showing all the horrible things she's done, while mentioning that she's spotted a man for her next bit of fun and hoping she gets to him before her neighbor does. That bit of utter madness spewed out, and the hag of a wolf woman quickly finds a man that Harriet recognizes as one of the EFL. His name escapes her at the moment, but he's rocking what looks to be a red alligator leather coat. Then things go from somewhat surreal to straight out of a cartoon as blades of energy are thrown around. The earth itself is manipulated into a weapon. Fire screams into the sky, and then everything shifts as he tosses her clothing and tells her to cover her shame. So, is your cousin known for making movies like this? Is she working in a film production company? Harriet asks the little Cobe. Well, no. Why, do you think it's fake? She asks, and Harriet taps her chin a few times in thought. I can't see the mistakes, but video editing technology is powerful enough to do this on the cheap. Combat-trained men is odd enough, but axiom users like this that aren't attached to a race like the Apuk? Even then, presuming he's a threat born to the Apuk, what's he doing there and why? Harriet asks, scuffing the trail with a series of honest questions if they had come from someone who couldn't just ask her own fellows all the details and receive a full report. Something she'll have to do after this. That's purest nonsense, HFY declares when the EFL man literally stamps a continent back into place. It does get rather fantastical. The little Cobe notes after a little while, and a zombie army starts shambling up to be matched by gigantic flying undead sea serpents that tear out of the ground like a scene right off a heavy metal album before the skies themselves seem to grow furious and shatter the enormous bones. Okay, I think I've seen enough silliness. I'll get to work, but please, do tell me if he takes his pants off, because that's the point where things get interesting. Harriet teases as she heads over to the files to sort. Time for the easy spy work.